Okay, I call this meeting of the Agricultural and Natural Resources Committee to order. Sean, please take the roll. Okay, looks like we have a quorum. We still have a couple folks drifting over from the P&E committee, so while we're waiting on that, I'll make a couple of housekeeping announcements. One, if you're watching from the hinterlands, we're actually taking a recess from general session. We had a little bit of an issue with our internet transmission, so we suspended and took a recess from general session. So we go back at 3 o'clock, so this will be the first half of our hearings today we'll do now, and then we'll come back and do the second part of the committee after our 3 o'clock floor session. Second thing, let me just announce at the outset, I know we have a lot of people that want to testify on the landfill bills, Senator Hashmi's legislation. I'm going to defer that until after 3 o'clock, so please be cognizant of that. You don't need to stay on the line if you're waiting on that bill. Thirdly, Senator Hanger's bill on recycling, and I'm looking for the number. Senate Bill 1164. I know we have people that are interested in that bill. We're going to take that by for a week so we can get a little bit better input on that. So Senate Bill 1164 is by for the week. And finally, we had the subcommittee on domestic animals, otherwise known as Cats and Dogs Subcommittee. And I believe we have a report from that. If you are here, and when I say here, or if you are virtually present in order to give testimony on that, we had a subcommittee that lasted 2 hours. We had extensive testimony. I'm going to rely on Senator Marsden to give a summary of what he heard and the recommendation that subcommittee met, but we will not be having further witness testimony. So having said that, Senator Marsden, why don't you do your subcommittee report?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First off, I want to thank all of the folks who weighed in on these very, very sensitive issues for a lot of people, and we heard everybody. I think we were able to hear probably 40 different entries from or conversations with the public on this bill, and we have 5 of them, and I'll just go down the list that I have here. The first one was my bill, Senate Bill 1135, which dealt with dangerous dogs procedure for adjudication and penalty. Mostly what this bill did, Mr. Chairman, was reorganize the code sections around dangerous dogs to provide better sequencing and clarity in the matter, and it closed several loopholes in current statute that allows owners to avoid the dangerous dog process by surrendering the animals to a releasing agency, which prevents adjudication. The bill provides timeframes for court hearings in the dangerous dog process. And this bill does not change the elements of what constitutes a dangerous dog. It does not change the requirements for owners of dogs found to be dangerous. It does not exclude or include any animals that were not in the original statute. It does not increase penalties, but it's been made consistent with other statutes. And the bill clarifies the duties of owners and animal control officers to ensure public safety. And the purpose of this legislation is to clarify and strengthen the statutes for animal control officers, the courts, dog owners, and victims. And it's supported by the animal shelter folks, the Virginia Association of the Virginia Animal Control Association, and with that, Mr. Chairman, it came out of Subcommittee 3-0, and I first off would like to, if there was a amendment, if there were any substitutes or amendments to the bill, could staff report those?
Can staff report the amendment to Senate Bill 1135?
Mr. Chair, that substitute is on LIS, and you can view it now.
Okay. Can somebody move the substitute, please?
Move substitute.
Okay. All in favor of moving the substitute, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Substitute is before us. Senator Marsden, can you explain the difference between the substitute and the introduced bill?
I think they're mostly, small changes to the bill. Could I have the DLS staff report the changes?
Mr. Chairman, the changes are to correct
a typo in a code citation, and then to make a couple of minor technical changes in the last section in the bill so that it continues to refer to animals rather than simply dogs, because current code refers to animals in that spot.
So fairly simple changes, Mr. Chairman. Again, it was reported out 3-0, and I move that the bill be reported.
Okay, so we've got a motion and a second to report 1135. Any comments from the committee members? We've already had public testimony.
It's good to go.
Okay, someone said good to go. Okay.
Senator Favola said.
All right, Senator Favola says it's good to go. Clerk, open the roll, please.
Noes 0.
All right. Ayes 12, noes 0, and that bill as the substitute has been reported and will go to the floor. Okay, next bill, Senator Marsden.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next bill is Senate Bill 1379. Do we have a substitute on that bill?
Do we have a substitute?
Mr. Chair, we do, and I'm putting it up on LIS now.
All right.
Okay, while he's doing that, Senator Marsden, why don't you tell us what 1379 is about?
This is, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the Humane Cosmetics Act. It prohibits the testing of cosmetics on animals in the Commonwealth effective July 1st, 2021. The bill prohibits the sale of any cosmetics manufacturer by any cosmetics manufacturer defined in the bill in the Commonwealth effective January 1, 2022 of any cosmetic that was developed or manufactured using animal testing on or after July 1st, 2021, with certain exceptions. Attorneys for the Commonwealth may investigate alleged violations, and information about testing provided to them is protected as a trade secret. Violations are subject to a civil penalty of up to $5,000 and an additional $1,000 penalty for each day the violation continues. The bill preempts any local regulation on cosmetic animal testing, and it was reported by the subcommittee 3-0.
Okay, and do you have a motion?
We had a 3-0 to adopt the.
Okay.
Oh, excuse me.
Do we have a motion to adopt the substitute?
Second.
Okay, all in favor of adopting the substitute, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, substitute is adopted. Staff, can you explain the difference between the substitute and the introduced bill?
The predominant difference, other than making it so that it only applies to cosmetic manufacturers rather than all people, and cosmetic manufacturers defined in the bill, it also changes the enforcement body from Commonwealth's attorneys to the Attorney General's office, who has a special animals unit that can handle these kinds of cases.
Okay. All right. Any questions or comments?
Yeah,
Senator Obenshain.
I'm going to ask a question at risk of sounding insincere, but I'm not. I mean, if we're not going to test them on animals, who do we test them on? Humans?
Mr. Chairman, this just involves cosmetics.
I understand that.
And so Senator Boysko is here. She would, I think, like to address the question.
Senator Boysko, we've had a question about who we actually test cosmetics on if we're not going to test them on animals.
That's a great question, Mr. Chair. Thank you for asking the question. Actually, because cosmetics are, they've been in existence for a really long time, the majority of the ingredients in cosmetics that are used have already been tested. And so it is very rare that something new comes onto the market. But I've been working on this for 30 years. The tests that they're able to do in labs using tissue samples or other lab tests are actually using like human tissue are actually more accurate and get more accurate results than would an animal test.
So, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
So the answer to that is that we're not going to test anything new on animals. We're going to test them on humans.
Mr. Chair, that's not what I said. What I said was the majority of the ingredients that are used, and the major, if you look at Maybelline, Estee Lauder, all of them have already stopped. In Europe, they're no longer testing on animals at all. they already have the data that is necessary to know what is safe for humans. And what I wanted to do is...
While you're doing that, let me ask a question myself. Senator Marsden, was there any opposition to this bill in the subcommittee?
It did not appear to be anything that I recall that there was any
Just
opposition.
as a follow-up, did Virginia Tech have a position on this? My recollection was...
They had a position on the adoption bill that they, but no, I don't believe that they. Senator Boysko, could I ask you, was Virginia Tech in any way weighing in on this one?
No, Mr. Chairman, as you may remember, these are cosmetics tests, and we already have on the books from 2018 a law that said that we would not painful tests on animals, as well as do household cleansers or cosmetics. This is simply saying that we're not going to sell those products that are not tested, with the exceptions that we have in place. And it is Johnson & Johnson is supporting this bill, as well as the personal products industry.
Okay. All right. Other than Senator Obenchain, anyone else have a question for Senator Boysko or for the subcommittee chair?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes. Senator Ruff.
how would a retailer know what kind of testing had been done in China or some other location? And would they be at risk in this process if they didn't know and it had happened?
And I'm going to ask if we have somebody still on the phone who can give you that assurance, any of my folks. Typically, there are already bans on testing animals in California and Illinois and Nevada, in Europe. The companies are not selling products that test on animals. It is being phased out. And
Let me ask a question for staff, because I understand your point, and I think the bill says no cosmetics manufacturers shall sell, offer for sale, or transport. It only talks about manufacturer. Is there any penalty against retailers? I think that's what Senator Ruff is asking.
Mr. Chair, I do know that there would be no risk to the actual retailer themselves.
Well, it says any person.
It's for the manufacturers. And let me give you an example. We allow the sale of milk in Virginia. However, we don't allow the sale of unpasteurized milk. Same kind of thing, right?
Okay, any further questions? All right.
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
The bill was passed and was recommended in subcommittee 3-0, and I move its passage.
Second.
Yeah, and because this was heard in subcommittee, we had public comment, so we're not going to do that twice. So we have a motion, we have a second. Clerk, open the roll.
10, noes 4.
Ayes 10, no 4. Bill reports.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yep. Senator Marsden, next on your list.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next bill is Senate Bill 1390, which deals with the issue of trap, neuter, and return programs for cats. And this bill was certainly a bit more controversial. People on both sides. My understanding, Mr. Chairman, is this bill has been in front of the legislature for a number of years. And although there are some concepts about what to do in lieu of this, there's nothing really concrete out there. And this is being done in Fairfax County, your own home turf. And they have seen a decline in animals. It's not a scientific test, but there is a reduction in the number of cats being picked up because of this program. But basically, what the bill does, it authorizes any public or private animal shelter, releasing agency, or hospital or clinic that is operated under the immediate supervision of a duly licensed veterinarian to operate a trap, neuter, and return program as defined in the bill. The bill exempts volunteers of such programs from provisions related to abandonment and licensing of animals, and exempts the operator from general requirements of shelters related to holding periods, release of animals, or record keeping. A person who violates certain required provisions for such a program is subject to a civil penalty not to exceed $150 brought on by any animal control officer, humane investigator, releasing agency, or the state veterinarian or state veterinarian's representative. And when they pick these animals up, Mr. Chairman, they do provide appropriate vaccinations and spay or neutering of these cats, and they are returned to the vicinity of where they were picked up, hopefully in a healthier condition, but unable to breed and exacerbate the problem of these cats. I will have to say that one of the one concern that struck me was that these cat colonies do kill a number of birds in the communities. But other than that, the bill was recommended to the committee for passage at 3-0. And
Mr. Chairman,
no other questions.
Mr. Chairman, or co-chairman,
Senator Lewis.
or subcommittee chairman, there were some technical amendments. There were 3 line amendments.
Yes, there were.
Staff, please report the amendments.
Yeah. Yes, Mr. Chair. There were 3 line amendments. Sorry, I'm just pulling them up, and they are on LIS, but I'll read them as well. The first one is on line 441. After the word any, insert the word set. And on that same line, 441, the second line amendment, after the word trap, would strike the word set. So those two sort of go together. And then the third line amendment is on line 443. After the word released, strike the phrase from the trap and insert the phrase at the location where trapped.
Mr. Chairman, those are the amendments. I so move that we adopt the line amendments.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second to adopt the line amendments. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the line amendments are adopted. The bill is in front of us as amended. Anybody have any questions or comments from the committee?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Senator Lewis. Stewart, I'm sorry.
Stewart, the other Lewis. Mr. Chairman, I've seen this bill every year since I've been here, I think. And I think I know the way the winds are blowing this year. But I will tell you, with all due respect to my good friends from Fairfax County, the rest of the state doesn't necessarily want to be like Fairfax County. In fact, some may really oppose being like Fairfax County. So I'm asking if you all would consider perhaps making this a local option.
It is local.
It is not mandated. I'm sorry.
This if they like, but they are not mandated to do it. Are we
That's
sure
right.
about that?
Can we get an answer, Mr. Subcommittee Chair or staff? Is this local option, the TNR program?
Mr. Chair, it is. It allows localities to adopt this TNR program for their shelters if they would like.
By ordinance?
I believe so, Mr. Chair, yes.
Mr. Chairman, could Dave tell me what the process is? They have to have an ordinance with a public hearing like you would any other ordinance?
Can I respond?
Senator Lewis, help us out.
It's not mandated on the localities, but organizations in the localities can undertake this program, as well as local shelters on a as-they-please basis. This bill also, Senator Stewart, for the first time ever, sets out what the standards are for these trap, neuter, and release programs at the very end. It's a list of criteria there to be an accepted program. But it is not mandated, however. There are some localities like Fairfax that have been doing this for 10 or 12 years. So there's some folks think they can do it anyway. So this bill just eliminates any concerns which other localities had that they were prohibited from doing a TNR program.
Right.
Allows them to have the TNR program, but doesn't foist it on them. So that individuals can group together. There's a group on the Eastern Shore, as a matter of fact, 2 groups on the Eastern Shore that do this voluntarily as citizens. And Fairfax, of course, does it through its, shelter program. So, but we're not forcing it on localities.
Mr. Chairman?
Senator Stewart.
I could respond.
My concern about this, Mr. Chairman, is, I represent a different part of the state. I know that there are other legislators in here that represent other parts of the state. And quite frankly, I know people, if you captured their cat and neutered it, I mean, there may be serious repercussions for that. And so there could be violence over it. And that concerns me a great deal because people prize their animals in certain parts of the state. And I just think it would be wise if we allowed localities to adopt this as a local option. The boards of supervisors that govern these jurisdictions know their constituents better than we do.
Okay, any more comments from the committee? We have a bill, yes, Senator Vivola.
I would just comment, having served on the Arlington County Board and, of course, having had to vote on the contract that we had with our shelter, this kind of issue would be in that contract, and it is up for a public vote. So, because you're allocating resources. And under our local government ordinances, when, just like the county budgets have to be adopted in public, when there's a specific appropriation for service, that has to be adopted in public. So the contract that a local government would have with the area shelter would also have to be adopted in public. So that kind of thing would be open to public comment.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second to report the bill.
And the committee recommendation was 3-0.
And does this go anywhere? No. All right. I'd love to send this to finance. Okay. All right. Motion and a second. Clerk, please open the roll.
Ayes 11, nays 3.
Okay. The bill passes on a vote of 11-3. Senator Marsden, next up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The final two bills we have are from Senator Stanley. The first one is Senate Bill 1412, which deals with pet shops, dealers, dog breeders, employees convicted of animal abuse. This requires pet shops, dealers, and commercial dog breeders to obtain a signed statement from any prospective owner, director, officer, manager, member, operator, member of staff, or animal caregiver of such pet shop, dealer, or commercial dog breeder, respectively, that each person has never been convicted of animal cruelty, neglect, or abandonment. The bill prohibits pet shops from selling or giving for adoption an animal without first obtaining such statements from the purchasers or adopter, and prohibits dealers and commercial dog breeders from importing, selling, or offering for sale any dog to a pet shop without first obtaining such statements from each owner, director, officer, manager, member, operator, member of staff, and animal caregiver of the pet shop. Failure of such person to provide or by such pet shop dealer or dog breeder to obtain such statement is Class 1 misdemeanor. This is the way the bill started off, and we have a substitute. Could staff please report the substitute, the changes to the bill?
Mr. Chairman?
Yep. Hold on a second. That was Senator Mason. Do you want to comment before we get to the staff?
What bill number is this?
No, that's wrong.
12. Strike me as what I deserve.
1412.
Here we go.
All right, staff, can you report
The substitute.
Mr. Chair, the substitute is online, but the main changes are that rather than requiring a signed statement from those individuals before working at a pet shop or working as a dealer or commercial dog breeder, it just outright prohibits somebody from working in that capacity.
Okay.
So that was the change, Mr. Chairman, and it was recommended by the subcommittee 3-0.
Okay. And just to question, this is limited to animal cruelty charges, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Has the substitute been adopted? Do I have a motion? Okay, I have a motion and a second to adopt the substitute. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Substitute is adopted and before us. What was the recommendation of the subcommittee?
Recommendation was 3-0 from the subcommittee, and I move that we report the bill.
Okay. All right. Anyone in the committee have any questions or comments on this bill? Okay. Any questions or comments on this bill?
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's my understanding that if you've been convicted of one of these offenses, and I don't want them working there either, but if they go to work and they lie about their conviction and somehow the owner doesn't know it, they still could be guilty of a Class 1 misdemeanor. Does anybody else think that's kind of steep?
Is that strict liability?
That's the way I read it.
Hold on, let me get this in front of me. Hold on. Staff, can you help us out on that?
Mr. Chair, I believe it puts the onus on the individual, and that individual would receive the violation and the Class 1 misdemeanor, not the pet shop who hired them under this. The earlier draft, actually, Senator Stewart would be right that it would be the pet shop's responsibility to obtain that signed statement. But now it's any person who violates it by working at a pet shop would receive the Class 1 misdemeanor.
Okay, so the substitute basically makes it the person themselves, not the pet shop owner. Okay, any other questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Mason.
sorry, but last couple of years, we've had a lot of these pet shop bills, and the pet shop owners have all gotten together and tried to police themselves and did you hear from them, and were they good to go on those?
Mr. Chairman, this is the sponsor of the bill, Senator Stanley. In fact, this substitute has been proposed by the pet shops.
Okay.
And I think, quite frankly, what they offered makes the bill even stronger. And that was there. And then from that, we worked out an agreement with the chairman of the sub, and that's what's before you today. So the pet shops are the ones through Senator Pillion that offered this amendment.
Otherwise known as the Pet Shop Boys.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Morrissey.
I just wanted to let you know that when Senator Stewart mentioned strict liability, all these lawyers over here, their shoulders squared away, their antennas went up, and they were laser-like focused.
Mr. Chairman, I would say that
Hold on. Senator, Subcommittee Chair, any closing remarks?
Well, just to respond to Senator Morrissey's comment, there just aren't enough pet shops to go around anymore. We're down to somewhere in the teens. It is not a big business area anymore. But it was 3-0, and I have made the motion, and let's vote it out.
All right, we've got a motion and a second to report the bill. Clerk, open the roll.
Ayes 11, noes 3.
Okay, bill passes 11-3. And we are on 1417, I believe. Senator Marsden.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Animal Testing Facilities, Adoption of Cats and Dogs, Civil Penalty. Requires any animal testing facility defined in the bill that no longer has a need for a dog or cat in its possession that does not pose a health or safety risk to the public to offer for a reasonable period of time prior to euthanasia such dog or cat for adoption to a releasing agency or through a private placement. The bill authorizes an animal testing facility to enter into an agreement with a releasing agency for the implementation of the adoption. Violation is subject to a civil penalty of not more than $5,000 and any court costs and attorney fees. And I believe we changed from reasonable period of time to a time specific. If staff could report the substitute.
Staff, can you report the substitute, please?
Yeah. Mr. Chair, there is a substitute on LIS that made a number of changes. The two changes that were proposed by Senator Stanley appear on lines 41 and 45. So the first one says that in an animal testing facility that no longer has need for a dog or cat in its possession that does not pose a health or safety risk to the public or welfare of the animal, and that phrase "or welfare of the animal" is the new phrase, which I think may need some clarification. But the second line amendment is on line 45, after a reasonable length of time, comma, up to 3 weeks, comma, that's the new phrase. And then there's a third line amendment that was proposed during the committee, and I think that I understood the intent, but I could have gotten it wrong. I tried clarifying it earlier in the day, but I didn't get a chance to talk about it. But it's on line 44. There's a new phrase after program that says, comma, provided that such program maintains records that comply with section 3.2-6557, which is a section related to records kept by releasing agencies when they take possession of an animal.
Great, okay. All right, have we had a motion to adopt those amendments? Okay. We have a motion and a second to adopt the amendments. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the amendments are adopted, so the bill is amended before us. Senator Marsden, you've already given us a summary of it.
It was recommended 3-0 by the subcommittee, and I so move that we report the bill.
Okay. Any comments or questions from the committee?
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Stanley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd also report that we worked together with the bill, on the bill with not only the releasing agencies, but also our higher institutions of learning, such as Virginia Tech, and private industry, such as Envigo, and we all came to this language as being very acceptable, and everybody's very excited about the bill, and I know of no opposition to it, sir. Thank you.
Okay, all right. We already had public comments, so we have a motion and a second. Okay. No other comments? Clerk, open the roll.
Ayes 14, no 0.
All right. Ayes 14, no 0. The bill reports. We now have a sponsor present. So, Senator Peake, why don't you come forward and tell us about Senate Bill 1115. I know we had some questions and asked you to come back, and what have you got to report for us?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Allow me to come back after missing it earlier. The Senate Bill 1115. And we had some issues with VDAX, and we're trying to get that worked out, and I think we got the proponents of the bill and the government agencies on board. And so what the original bill was going to redefine hemp from 0.3 to up to 1%. And now we're abandoning that, and we're going to just say that the Commonwealth will not punish hemp that gets up to 1%. And so we're not changing the definition, and I think the administration is on board, and I think the people interested in the hemp crop are on board, and I hope some of them are online, so we try to get everybody to work this out.
Let me do this. Staff, do we have people in the queue who want to speak on this? Because this bill was not before the subcommittee, and I know the administration at one point was opposing it, so I need to get some...
And then I'll say the House bill that pretty much we're now monitoring came out of their committee 22-0.
All right, is Secretary Strickler on the line or anyone speaking for him? Okay, Mr. Secretary, can you, someone on your team, tell us what you think of 1115? Has this been amended, Mark, or is this?
Yes, this is an amended bill. When we came back last time, we were trying to change the definition, or when we were here last week. And so we sent the interested parties with the administration, and I believe they're all on board.
All right, have we adopted an amendment?
We have not. I moved, well, y'all got to do that. We have a substitute bill.
Take this one point at a time. Is there a substitute before staff? Has that been promulgated?
Mr. Chair, the substitute is on LIS, yes.
Okay, we have a substitute before us. Do I have a motion to adopt it? We have a motion and a second to adopt the substitute. All in favor, vote aye. Okay, any opposed? Substitutes before us. Senator Peake, just very briefly, the difference between the substitute and the introduced bill.
That's what, now the substitute doesn't redefine hemp, and what it says is the Commonwealth will not prosecute hemp that exceeds 0.3% up to 1%, 1% now being the USDA event. This gives some protection to our farmers whose crops grow hot. Now they won't be prosecuted under Virginia law.
So this is a no prosecution under Virginia law, but we can't obviously guarantee you against the feds. You're on your own.
Correct.
All right, Secretary Strickler or somebody on his team, where are we on this?
Chairman Peterson, this is Matt Strickler. This is a bill that's being handled by our Agriculture Secretariat, so I would hope that Secretary Ring or Deputy Secretary Copenhaver could handle this, and I think one or both of them are in the room.
Okay, if Secretary Ring or somebody, I say that because I did get a memo that the administration was opposing this bill, so and maybe the substitute solves that. I think it does, but I'd like to get some clarity.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Marsden.
I don't know if I can offer clarity there, but I know that with the typical federal response to finding a field with hemp in it that has gotten too quote unquote hot, in other words, too much THC, and is that they can instruct the farmer to burn the crop. Is that your understanding, Senator Peake?
That's my understanding, but it's my understanding that the feds almost are not doing that. And so the concern here is that Virginia law enforcement would require them to do that.
All right. I see Kyle, you're in the queue. Do you have any information to share on this?
Mr. Chairman, Kyle Shreve, the Virginia Agribusiness Council. The revised USDA guidance regarding the final rule for industrial hemp production does allow a negligence standard up to 1%, but they did not change the underlying definition. That was what we communicated with the Secretary through the Secretary's Office of Agriculture and Forestry and with Senator Peake. It is our understanding, I have not had a chance to review the substitute in detail, but I do understand it is supposedly identical with the House bill that is moving forward, with which we are supportive of. So
Mr. Chairman, that is correct.
I support it.
Senator Peake.
Except for the only difference would be their fee is they have a fee of $250 and my fee is at $50. But the active part, the 1% non-prosecution is the same as HB.
Okay, why don't we do this?
2070.
Yep, and we're supportive of that, Mr. Chairman.
Right. Is there anyone in the queue who's opposed to this? All right, why don't we do this? We've got a motion. Do we have a motion to report? Okay, we have a motion and a second to report. I'm going to abstain just to keep it off the consent docket, just in case something pops up, but it sounds like it's good to go. Clerk, open the roll.
Thank you.
Nope.
Ayes 13, no 0, 1 abstention.
Okay, ayes 13, no 0, 1 abstention. The bill reports. Okay, what other, somebody said Senator Edwards was here a bit ago. I think I see him out there. John? Or Cosgrove. Either John Edwards or John Cosgrove, whoever comes first. John, you're up. Okay, Senate Bill 1453.
1453 is a recommendation of the Code Commission. It's a result of 2 years of study and work. Scott Meacham, I want to thank him and other members of the Code Commission and Amigo Wade and Mr. Berry for their work in putting this together. Now, I could read 177 pages and 10,875 lines, or I could try to simplify it.
Simplify.
What this bill does, it is a complete revision of Title 45.1 and Title 67. It creates a new title of 45.2, which is with mines, minerals, and energy, and combines them into the existing 45.1 mines and minerals and mines and mining, and puts it together with Virginia Energy Policy or Plan, which is Title 67. The proposed new Title 45.2 consists of 21 chapters divided into 5 subtitles. Subtitle 1, Administration. 2 is Coal Mining. 3 is Mineral Mines. 4, Gas and Oil. And 5 is Other Sources of Energy and the Virginia Energy Policy. It organizes the laws more logically, removes obsolete and duplicative provisions, improves the structure and clarity of the statutes pertaining to the administration of the Department of Mines, Minerals, and Energy, and underground and surface coal mining, underground and surface mineral mining, the Gas and Oil Act, energy from wind, solar, geothermal, nuclear, and other energy, and the Virginia Energy Policy. The bill removes the remaining provisions of Title 67 into other sections of the code that are not appropriate to go into Title 45.2. And the bill has a delayed effective date of October 1, 2021. With that, urge you to support the bill. Again, it's a unanimous recommendation of the Virginia Code Commission after 2 years of extensive studies.
Okay, so thank you, Senator Edwards. Just to summarize, we're taking two titles in the code, 45.1 and 67, mines and mining and the Virginia Energy Plan, and effectively merging them in one consolidated code section, 45.2.
Yes.
Okay, that's meaningful for me because that means I get to buy one less volume of the code.
It'll be a big one.
It will be a big one. Okay. Anyone in the public wish to speak?
I see no hands raised.
All right, no hands. Okay, anybody on the committee like to ask a question or make a comment? Okay, I've got a motion and a second to report the bill. Clerk, open the roll.
Ayes 15, no 0.
Ayes 15, no 0. You have another one? Okay, all right. All right, Senator Cosgrove. Yep.
Mr. Chairman, I have a very simple bill. It is very similar to the bill that Senator Lewis carried in the special session. Microphone.
John, can you turn the mic on?
So I'm carrying a bill very similar to the bill that Senator Lewis carried during the special session. That was Senate Bill 5601. This bill would simply extend the permit date for wetlands permits that have been issued between March 1st of 2020 and July 1st of 2021. It retroactively considers valid and effective until January 1st, 2022. And Mr. Chairman, the reason I bring this forward is when you get a wetlands permit, there's two ways in Virginia to do it. You either go through the Virginia Marine Resources Commission, which is not fun, or you can go through your local wetlands boards. Most localities have a wetlands board, and if the wetlands board issues the permit, they can, say yes or no. VMRC, if they issue the permit, they can say yes or no. Again, this bill helps people that have these existing permits. In order to start your wetlands work and your job, whether it's a dock or deck or pier or bulkhead, you have to get a building permit from your local city or county or town. If you take it to Virginia Beach, now they're doing the very best they can. This is no slam on Virginia Beach or many other little towns. They're all either working from home or they have appointment times where you have to go in and get your building permit and other things you need to in order to build your deck, dock, pier, etc. So this bill just basically extends the validity of the permits. It doesn't give them any more rights and privileges. It just extends the validity.
Okay, so this is the bill that extends the wetland permits until January 1, 2022. All right, I apologize. This is the bill that extends wetland permits that have expired until July 1, 21 until January 1, 2022, correct?
Either expired or will expire, during that period of time.
So it's essentially an automatic extension?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and I assume that's due to the pandemic and...
It is, sir.
Okay. Any questions from the gallery? Okay, anyone signed up publicly to speak? No hands raised. Any questions or comments from the committee? I've got a motion to report. I got a second. Clerk, open the roll.
Ayes 15, no 0.
Thank
Okay.
you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other non-committee members here present? Anybody look out the door? Okay. That being the case, we're just going to move down the list, lowest to highest, and Senate Bill 1164 we move to next week. That's Senator Hanger's recycling bill. Senate Bill 1177, Senator Ruff. Not here. Okay. Senate Bill 1210, Peterson. That's me. Let me do this. Why don't we just go to Senate Bill 1396, Senator Hashmi. She wants to come forward. Or do it from back there.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and members of the committee. Senate Bill 1396 is known as the Equity in Wastewater Treatment Act. And as we all well know, communities across Virginia continue to struggle with inadequate facilities to manage wastewater, and this is throughout the Commonwealth. But the statewide issue really disproportionately impacts low-income communities in particular. In addition to failing on-site or decentralized systems, inadequate wastewater treatment occurs in communities that lack critical funding to maintain and repair their municipal facilities. And this inadequate treatment of wastewater exposes all of us to disease, pollution of waterways, and hinders economic growth. And it's also an impact on climate change in a very significant way, as many of our localities can well testify. So this particular legislation establishes that the Commonwealth's policy is to have equitable access to wastewater treatment to protect public health, the environment, and support local economic growth and stability. It establishes an interagency working group and recommends the development of recommended actions for achieving policy. And this also directs the Department of Environmental Quality to partner with the Department of Health to work with local governments and other stakeholders to quantify the funding needs to achieve this policy. This bill also authorizes the Department of Health to use the existing on-site sewage indemnification fund to offer grants and loans to low-income households for projects. And it recognizes the increasing threat of climate change and authorizes the Department of Health to consider its impact in updating the regulations for the design and permitting of on-site sewage systems. This bill is already funded through, or is in the proposed budget, with funding to support the legislation, and it has the support of the Southeast Rural Community Assistance Project, Virginia Association of On-Site Soil Evaluators, and Virginia Society of Professional Engineers, Wetland Watch, James River Association, Chesapeake Bay Foundation, Piedmont Environmental Council, as well as the Virginia Conservation Network and several other stakeholders. And Mr. Chair, I believe there are a few folks on the line who are ready to speak in support of the bill.
Okay, thank you, Senator Hashmi. Do we have folks from the public who would like to testify? Put your hands up.
Christopher Lyon, please go ahead.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Chris Lyon on behalf of the Virginia League of Conservation Voters. For the reasons articulated by the patron, we support this bill and thank Senator Hashmi for bringing this bill forward.
Okay.
Anna Kilias, please go ahead.
Chairman Peterson, I'm here on behalf of the James River Association, the Chesapeake Bay Foundation, the Friends of the Rappahannock, and Wetlands Watch, just to say that we strongly support the bill. It's not just a water quality issue, it's a public health and equity issue as well. And so we hope it is your will to move it forward today. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Morrissey.
A question for the person who's testifying. Good morning, or good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I want to direct your attention to page 4, lines 197, and perhaps I'm reading this wrong, but it says the fund may be used, and it goes on to say, to repair failing on-site sewage systems or install on-site sewage systems. And then the next sentence says, no expenses shall be paid from the fund to support a failing on-site sewage system or to install an on-site sewage system. Isn't that inconsistent? Or if not, explain to me how I'm misinterpreting that.
Mr. Chairman and Senator Morrissey, I think that would probably be a question best directed to either the patron or the Department of Health if they're available as to how that section would work in practice.
Further question.
Senator Morrissey.
When you're referring to the on-site sewage system, is that synonymous with a manufactured system? In other words, where the land does not perk, you can install a manufactured system on a PERC site. Is that what we're focusing on here in this legislation?
As I understand it, Mr. Chairman,
Yep.
Senator Morphy,
Go ahead.
we're talking about septic systems. But again, I would think that Department of Health would be the best person to respond to that question.
Mr. Chairman, we have...
Hashmi.
Thank you. We have Secretary Strickler who's waiting to comment, and I think he would be able to respond to Senator Morsi.
I'm going to let him do that. The way I read this sentence, starting in line 197 and going down to line 200, is that the expenses shall not be paid for the failing system in lieu of a payment to any owner or owners qualified to receive payment. So in other words, there will not be double payment. That's how I'm reading that. Maybe it's not drafted.
That's
Perfect.
how I read it too, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman. Thank you.
All right, Secretary Strickler, do you have an answer?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Senator Marcy. I think that reading of the text is accurate, although I would offer that Julie Henderson from the Department of Health is here to answer any technical or further questions you have on the ins and outs of what qualifies here as far as septic system.
Okay. All right, any other questions of the patron or about the bill? Any other public comment?
Yeah, I know that, yeah.
So it can be vote.
We have Pat Calvert, or excuse me, we have Julie Henderson.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Morsi.
Secretary Strickler.
Go ahead, Senator Morsi.
Okay, I thank you for clarifying that last point. Are we trying to help, is the focus or the gist of this bill to help those individuals at or below 200% of the federal poverty guideline who are desirous of updating their antiquated sewage system by repairing it or replacing it with a manufactured system to give them financial assistance? Is that how I should interpret the gist of this bill?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Marcy, thanks for the question. That's certainly part of it, is the financial assistance part. And again, that fund is administered by the Department of Health, so they could speak probably better to that component of the bill. The other aspects of the legislation, which we think are important, are setting kind of a statewide policy on this that we're going to act as a Commonwealth to deal with this problem, which we kind of colloquially call wastewater islands, right? They're pockets of communities and areas across the state where you have a lot of septic. You're either in a floodplain, or you're being encroached upon by sea level rise, or for some other reason have failing systems or systems that are at risk of failing. And we want to make sure that we address that public health and environmental impact, especially for people, as you mentioned, who are in a challenging position to be able to take that expense on themselves.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Senator Morrison.
Just a question for for Secretary Strickler. Any possibility that we could get any data from this as to how many are failed septic systems, how many of these systems are replacing straight pipes that are putting sewage directly into the rivers? Would there be any data available from these grants?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Marsden, I think the answer is yes. We do want to collect that data, and obviously, getting rid of straight pipes is something we definitely want to do. The working group that's been meeting for the last year, which this bill would also codify, has collected some data on that. I know Deputy Secretary Jennings, who has been staffing that working group, is here with us today and may be able to provide some more information. But yes, doing a statewide assessment of kind of where the problem areas are and what the needs are to address those problems is a big piece of the bill.
All righty. Any other comments, questions?
One other question, I guess, for the Secretary.
Senator Favola.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I'm just curious, in the 32.1-164.1, the grant, you're talking about the fund. Are you going to administer this in a way where it's a competitive program you advertise it, property owners apply, or will it be administered through, say, a distribution formula?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Favola, good to see you today. That's really more of a question for the Department of Health. I hate to punt on that, but they administer the fund. And so I'm not familiar with the ins and outs of exactly how that'll be handled.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I'll speak to the folks at the Department of Health.
And Senator Julie Henderson from VDH is here if you'd like to redirect that question to her.
Julie, do you want to speak on that?
Hi, yes, this is Julie Henderson. I'm the director here at Office of Environmental Health Services. I mean, I think part of what this bill does would help us to establish that program. We do currently track all permitting and issuance of on-site sewage permits in our database, and so we have that information. And any repairs that need to take place that require a permit, we'd be able to track that as well.
So you could contact those permittees. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, go ahead.
Julie, you could contact those permittees and suggest that they apply for a grant, hypothetically.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
And we do, Senator Favola, if I would,
yes.
Can I further
Sure,
clarify that? So part of this bill is establishing the wastewater grant manager that would help administer this
Would
fund.
help do that. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Senator Vivola. By the way, I do see other people in the queue. Did anyone else want to testify, either for or against this bill?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I see Philip Musagas. Please go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Potomac Riverkeeper Network and Shenandoah Riverkeeper support this bill. Thank you.
Okay.
We have Faith Harris. Please go ahead.
Faith Harris.
Yes, Mr. Chair. We, Virginia Interfaith Power and Light, also supports this bill for the reasons that the patron already outlined for us, as well as just because it is in keeping with protecting our water, our groundwater in particular, and keeping our health of the people in the Commonwealth, protecting their health as it relates to waterborne diseases as well.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else?
Yes, Mr. Chair. We have two. Pat Calvert, please go ahead.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, this is Pat Calvert, though I like your pronunciation, with Virginia Conservation Network, and we're fully in support of this legislation. I'm fully in support of Senator Hashmi for bringing it and for Ms. Kilias for fielding good questions.
Okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Calvert. And lastly, we have Andy Crocker.
Andy Crocker.
I apologize. I was muted there. Sorry, Mr. Chairman. If I may, I'd like to, first of all, SERCAP is fully in support of the bill. And if I may, I'd like to just make a few quick comments that are related to some of the questions that have been asked by a few of the senators. First of all, not only is there a lack of critical funding, but with the work that we do in SERCAP, we work directly with small rural communities, both water and wastewater side. And not only is there a funding shortage, but we find that there is in many cases, a critical lack of technical and managerial capacity to take care of these systems. And so we work directly with them to try to help them maintain sustainability. And I think that some of the policy that the work group will be able to bring forth will help address that. With regard to not just replacing straight pipes, last year alone, SERCAP committed between $100,000 and $150,000 to projects either through non-point source implementation plans that were awarded through DEQ or to individual property owners who had failures of what would be referred to as an alternative on-site system or other septic system issues. Most of these properties most of the systems are on marginal properties, and they just lack the resources to maintain them both financially and from a technical capacity. So any additional funding, the little bit that we contributed is just a drop in the bucket to address the overall need.
All right, anybody else testify for or against Senate Bill 1396? Chair will entertain a motion. Okay, I've got a motion and a second to report the bill, and that needs to go to finance. So motion, okay, we've got a motion to report and refer to finance. Clerk, open the roll.
Hold on a second. There we go. Excuse me. I got it.
Okay. Okay, Suderline and Obenchain are negative.
Ayes 12, noes 3.
Okay, ayes 12, noes 3, the bill reports. All right, let me, going back to the list, we had 1164, that's gotten moved to next week. Is Senator Ruff here? Still not here? Okay. Hashmi, I've got those two off for now.
Oh, okay.
All right, I'll do my 1210. Marston, you want to take the reins?
Any sub on this, chap?
Yes.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, committee, this is Senate Bill 1210, and there is a substitute.
Okay, could we,
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the substitute, adopt the substitute.
have a motion to adopt the substitute? Do we have a second? Second, all in favor of adopting the substitute, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Substitutes before us. Could we just explain
Yeah,
the
let me
the bill
explain,
and then
and
the
let me just
substitute?
say, I'm going to phone a friend, that friend being David Paler, the director of DEQ. This is a bill that has to do with fees, permit fees that go to the programs whereby we regulate landfills and waste management programs and wastewater programs. And it originally started off as a code section, and we had a little bit of pushback. Particularly, there was a part of it that was going to waive the Administrative Process Act for appealing fees and that nature, and that was a little bit more aggressive than what we were willing to do. So the substitute that you just approved is a Section 1 bill to put together a work group to find a middle ground on these fees, which will make the programs, the regulatory programs, self-funding. So at that point, that's about the extent of my intelligence on it, and I'm going to turn it over to Director Paler.
Director Paler, are you there? There we go.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I believe he's really captured the nutshell of it. These are underfunded programs. We've worked with some of the stakeholders, and they're in agreement that they, that the funds need to be, that the program needs to be better funded. What this does is it sets up a stakeholder group so that we can negotiate what is the best way to structure our funding and that sort of thing, and then come back with a report and hopefully maybe a new legislation at the beginning of next year. It gets rid of the what was originally proposed, which was an expedited APA exempt. So I think we've gotten to a good place. There is, it's to fund the waste programs, and there's also something for the to look at funding for surface water and groundwater withdrawal programs. Those are the two underfunded programs. But the main thing that the bill does is now is give time for a stakeholder group to come to a resolution on the best way to structure fees, and then hopefully bring it back as legislation next year.
Okay, Senator Peterson, does it direct who the stakeholder group is, or does it leave that up to
Yeah,
the?
it enumerates who the stakeholders are, and it's both environmental groups, industrial groups, I believe local, maybe VML or VACO or some local government has a seat at the table. It's, to quote the Hollywood phrase, all the usual suspects.
All right, there we go. Any questions from the committee?
Mr. Chairman. Stewart.
Senator Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Paler, I was trying to catch up with you. The original bill just authorized you and the board to establish these fees without any approval of the General Assembly. But if I understand correctly, the substitute still would require the General Assembly to approve the fees that you all come up with. Is that correct?
That's correct. Whatever we arrive at, this is not a regulation process per se, but it is, call it a study, whatever, and then we would come back to the legislature next year to make whatever adjustments are necessary to incorporate that into the legislation.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions from the committee? Okay, let's see if there's anyone out there in the virtual world who would like to speak positively and affirmatively about Senator Peterson's bill. Is there anyone there? Have one?
Tim Hayes, please go ahead.
Are you muted? Don't seem to be there.
We have one more, actually.
I'm sorry?
Brett Vassy, please
Oh,
go ahead.
Brett, are you there?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I want to thank Senator Peterson. This is the way that we've done permit fee evaluations many, many times over the last 20 years. We're anxious to participate in the process, and we appreciate having a seat at the table. Thank you. We support this.
Thank you, Mr. Vassy. Anyone else in favor of the bill want to speak? Is there anyone out there opposed to the bill?
Please raise your hand.
She said, if so, please raise your hand.
I can't hear you. Very good. Bill is before us. Anything else, Senator Peterson?
Nope, just move to report.
We have a motion and a report to second. Clerk, would you open the roll?
This one is also headed to Finance, Mr. Chair.
What?
Also to Finance and
Okay,
Appropriations, please,
the motion then is to report
Second.
and refer to Finance. Open the rolls. All in favor, vote aye. Opposed, nay. There you go. You're a yay.
Ayes 15, noes 0.
Okay, ayes 15, no 0, and that bill goes on to the Legislative Hall of Fame. Okay. We've got about 10 minutes of usable time, so if somebody has a brief bill that's not going to elicit a lot of testimony, we can do it right now.
Lewis back here.
Linwood Lewis, Senator Lewis.
I've got one little bit of housekeeping. Senate Bill 1352. I am going to ask that be stricken. I know.
All right, there's been a request that Senate Bill 1352 be stricken. That's the Department of Flood Control. All in favor of striking that bill, say aye. Aye. Oh, roll call vote. Open the roll, please.
Ayes 14, noes 1.
Okay, ayes 14, noes 1.
And Mr. Chairman, I have one more that, at the risk of gumming up the docket, it hit the system on Friday. It shouldn't be any big lift, but I know there are people who are supportive of it, and I'd like to give them some more time to speak up, and that's Senate Bill 1460. It's about deer hunting, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Senate Bill 1468 about deer.
Well, no, actually, what I'd like to do, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to take that over to next week if I could.
Okay, that's fine. Senate Bill 1460, we're going to move over to next week.
That's the housekeeping, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Senate Bill 1282, I think should be pretty quick.
Okay, let me. Okay, Senate Bill 1282 on greenhouse gas emissions. Senator Morrissey. Okay. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I'd like to move the substitute.
Can I have a motion to adopt the substitute?
Mr. Chairman, let me just take 30 seconds to tell what this substitute does. The substitute removes the second enactment clause, the Administrative Process Act exemption language, and it also adds a new paragraph C to provide clarity regarding the protection of proprietary information, which was something that was of very much concern to the Farm Bureau. Okay. So with that explanation, I now move the substitute. I think it's been passed, and let me explain what this bill does. And in order to explain, let me take just 30 seconds to remind the committee what we did last year. During the 2020 session, Mr. Chairman, the General Assembly amended code sections related to Virginia's energy policy. And including in that was the pursuance of certain objectives. One of those was an objective to establish greenhouse gas emissions reductions across Virginia so that by the year 2045 it would be a net zero emissions. That was simply an objective. And although the Virginia Energy Plan is now required to include greenhouse gas emissions, the current law does not provide DEQ or the Air Board with the authority to gather that data. So what does this bill does? It gives DEQ and the Air Quality Board the authority to collect some baseline data. Last year, if you believe and agree with Virginia's energy plan, and then you would support this language. So what it does is the department shall conduct a comprehensive statewide baseline and projection inventory for all greenhouse gas emissions from various sectors. And then the board shall include the inventory in the report that's required of it. That's it. That's what it does. Pretty straightforward.
Okay.
One quick sentence on what it does not do. People are not going to be coming on your property and you have a small farm and collecting data from it and collecting proprietary information that may be able to be used by a competitor.
Okay. All right. I think, let me summarize by saying thank you for that summary. And it looked like you have addressed the objections of Farm Bureau and agribusiness, so I'm going to take that. Have we adopted the substitute yet? Can I have a motion to adopt substitute? All right, we have a motion and a second to adopt substitute. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Substitute is before us. Is there anyone from the public that would like to testify?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have 6.
Okay, why don't we start with this? Is there anyone opposed to this bill? Raise your hand if you're opposed to this bill. Okay, I don't see any hands going up, which makes me think that you all are neutral or favorable. Nod your head if that's the case. Okay, the record will show that heads are nodding. Okay, since we're short on time, I'm going to entertain a motion to report this bill. And it goes to finance. Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second to report this bill to finance. Any comments from the committee? I'll take that as a no. Clerk, open the roll.
Ayes 9, nays 6.
All right, ayes 9, nays 6. All right. That bill passes. I've got one other housekeeping matter, which is... Yes,
I've got a bill, but I'm not sure the sub is ready. You may be out of time on it, but it's an important bill, and they've reached a consensus now. I don't want to give them time to get out of agreement.
Which number is that?
It's 1354. It can be quick if the substitute is ready, I believe. Scott would know. Is Scott on?
Mr. Chair, the substitute is ready.
All right. Emmett, I hate to do this, but that is at least a complicated subject. So
Right.
Can we take a few more minutes? I have one item I want to get to, and then
Go
I
ahead,
want to
go ahead,
adjourn.
that's fine.
We had a request from Senator Ruff. He spoke to me about striking his bill, and that would be Senate Bill 1177. All right. We have a motion and a second to strike Senate Bill 1177. All in favor say aye. Roll call vote. Okay. Okay.
Ayes 15, no 0.
All right. That bill is stricken. All right. It's 2:45. We have to go back into session at 3, and we got about a 10-minute walk to get there. We have gotten through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We've gotten through 12 bills thus far, so we've gotten about through half of our docket. So please report back immediately once the session is over, and we'll come back up. And Senator Hanger, we'll start immediately with your bill.
Okay, thank you.
All right, this committee is temporarily, do we adjourn or just take a recess? Okay, this committee will recess until after the session. Thank you.